Welcome back to XRP First One, the channel that gives you the honest version, no hype, no fairy tales. 40% in 1 week. 40. After 12 months of pain, after everyone gave up, after XRP kissed a dollar and the whole internet said it was finished, XRP just woke up. It went vertical, smashed past $1.30, and left Bitcoin and Ethereum in the dust. For 12 months, they laughed at XRP holders. Today, nobody is laughing anymore. But here is the part almost nobody is telling you. The reason XRP actually exploded is not the reason your feed is screaming about. Something woke this thing up, and it is bigger and honestly stranger than institutions just buying coins. So do not scroll, because by the end of this video you will understand this move better than 90% of the people celebrating it right now. Stay with me. No hype, no fairy tales, just the honest version of why XRP actually exploded, and the one thing underneath it that matters far more than a single green week. Quick note before we start. Nothing here is financial advice. I am not telling you to buy, sell, or hold anything. Every number is data or opinion, never a promise. Always do your own research and make your own decisions. Let me show you just how big this move actually was, because it is genuinely stunning. In a single week, XRP ripped roughly 40%, climbing all the way back above $1.40, hitting a 3-month high, and it did not just move, it led. XRP outran Bitcoin, which was up around 24%, and Ethereum, which was up around 28%. When XRP is beating the two giants of this market, people notice. The trading volume tells the same story. We are talking around $10 billion in daily volume, and XRP jumping back up to the number 5 spot among all cryptocurrencies. Analysts are calling it XRP's best week since the election pump back in 2024. After a year of watching XRP bleed out slowly, that is a shocking turnaround, and I know exactly how it feels. If you held through the last 12 months, through the drops, through the doubt, through everyone telling you it was dead money, this week felt like vindication. You earned that feeling, so enjoy it. But now I have to do the thing this channel is built on. I have to give you the honest version, because a 40% week feels amazing, but if you do not understand what actually caused it, you can get badly caught off guard by what comes next. So let me pull back the curtain, because the real trigger for this explosion was not what the thumbnails are telling you. Here is the truth, and almost nobody is saying it clearly. The single biggest spark for this rally did not even come from crypto. It came from the United States Treasury. The Treasury moved to double its buybacks of long-term government bonds. In plain English, that pumped a wave of fresh liquidity into the financial system. And when liquidity floods in, risk assets like crypto catch fire. That move helped push Bitcoin to its biggest weekly gain in about 2 years. And when Bitcoin runs like that, it drags the entire market up with it. Now, here is the second half of the story, and this is the part that really explains the size of XRP's move: a short squeeze. For months, tons of traders were betting against crypto, positioned short. When the market suddenly ripped upward, all of those bets got crushed. Across the market, billions of dollars in short positions were liquidated in just a few days. When shorts get liquidated, it forces even more buying, which shoots the price even higher, even faster. That is the rocket fuel that turned a normal bounce into a 40% explosion. And yes, on top of all that, you had the regulatory good news we have been tracking. The president standing with crypto leaders at the White House, the SEC rolling out its new framework that added real fuel to the fire and lifted the mood across the board. So, put it together honestly: macro liquidity from the Treasury, a massive short squeeze, and a wave of regulatory optimism. That is what actually launched XRP this week. It was not, despite what the hype says, every bank on Wall Street suddenly deciding to buy all the XRP in existence, and understanding that difference is what separates you from the crowd. So let me tackle that institutional story head on, because there is real truth in there too, just not the version you are being sold. Okay, let me be fair here, because the institutional side is not nothing. It is real. It is just wildly exaggerated in the hype. Here is a headline you have probably seen: Goldman Sachs now holds around $86.5 million across 5 different XRP ETFs. And that is true. It sounds huge, but here's the part they leave out. Just 1 quarter earlier, Goldman had sold its entire XRP ETF position, over $150 million, all the way down to zero. So, this is not some steady, unwavering conviction. This is a bank that dumped it all, then hopped back in. That is a very different story from they want all the XRP forever. And those other giant names you see plastered on the thumbnails, some of those positions are tiny. In fact, the reporting shows one small firm in Chicago holds nearly 3,000 times more of one XRP ETF than a certain Wall Street giant that gets named constantly. So when you see a list of megabanks with the words, "they want it all," understand that some of those bank positions are barely a rounding error. And here is the most important honesty check of all. The ETF inflows, while real, are small compared to XRP's size. One recent daily inflow was under $6 million. That sounds like a lot until you realize XRP's market value is in the tens of billions. That inflow was less than 1/100th of 1% of XRP's market cap. It is a real new source of demand, and over time it can grow into something powerful. But right now, today, it is not big enough to move the price on its own. Anyone telling you the ETFs alone, because this is not being straight with you. So let me ask you the real question. Do you think XRP holds above $1.30 going into September 15th? Just answer yes or no in the comments. One word. I read every single one. Now, if the surge was mostly macro and the ETF story is smaller than advertised, you might be thinking, so is there anything real underneath XRP right now? And the answer is yes. And it is the one thing almost nobody made a video about this week. Here is the milestone that actually matters for the long run, and it has nothing to do with a green candle. For the very first time, there is now more of Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD, living on the XRP ledger than on Ethereum. Let me put a number on it. Around $810 million of RLUSD now sits on the XRP ledger, compared to around $756 million on Ethereum. And just 1 month ago, Ethereum was ahead by more than $300 million. That is a massive shift in a very short time. The home base of Ripple's stablecoin is moving on to the XRP ledger right in front of us. Why does that matter so much? Because a stablecoin is the fuel. It is the money that actually moves through a financial system. And more RLUSD on the XRP ledger means more real economic activity flowing through the network XRP was built to power, and it goes further. Ripple is now building an institutional lending platform directly on the XRP ledger. Think about what that means. The XRP ledger is turning from a pure payments network into something much bigger, a place where institutions can lend, borrow, and settle real money on-chain. Payments, stablecoins, lending, real-world assets, all in one place. That is not a token chasing a pump. That is an actual financial system being assembled piece by piece. That is the story that will still matter long after this week's candle is forgotten. Adoption does not care what the price did on a Tuesday. It just keeps getting built. And that is exactly what is happening on the XRP ledger right now. So, let me bring it all together and talk honestly about the road ahead. Let me keep it real all the way to the end, because that is the whole point of this channel. First, a warning: I would be doing you a disservice to skip. This move is hot. Technically, XRP is now deep in what traders call overbought territory, and analysts are openly pointing out that a rally built on a short squeeze can be running on borrowed momentum. That means a cool-off, a pullback, or some chop would be completely normal after a move this fast. Do not let a 40% week convince you that gravity has been canceled. Second, an honest structural fact. Every month, Ripple releases a large batch of XRP from escrow, and even after re-escrowing most of it, a few 100 million new XRP still enters circulation. That steady new supply is one of the real reasons XRP can win headline after headline and still struggle to hold big price gains. That is not fear. That is just the arithmetic, and you deserve to know it. So where does that leave us? The price this week was driven mostly by macro forces and a short squeeze, and that is a reaction, not a promise of where XRP goes next. But underneath the noise, the real foundation, stablecoin growth, lending adoption, keeps getting poured. And the true catalyst that everyone is actually watching is still ahead of us: the Clarity Act vote on September 15th. That is the event that could turn a borrowed rally into something durable. So enjoy the green, respect the risk, and keep your eyes on what is actually being built, not just what the candle did this week. That is the honest road ahead. So let me bring it all home. XRP just exploded 40%, its best week in years, and it feels incredible. But the honest version matters. This move was powered mostly by a wave of treasury liquidity and a massive short squeeze, lifted by real regulatory optimism, not by Wall Street suddenly buying every last coin. The institutional story is real but smaller than the hype, and the thing that actually matters most this week was quiet. Ripple's stablecoin flipping Ethereum on the XRP ledger, and a real financial system being built underneath it all. The candle will fade, the foundation will not. If this gave you the honest picture nobody else did, do me one quick favor. Tap that like button, it genuinely helps. Subscribe for the honest version of these stories, no hype and no fear, and drop your yes or no in the comments. Does XRP hold above $1.30 into September 15th? I want to hear it. This has been XRP First One. We're early, the foundation is being poured, and I'll see you in the very next one.